Hi, I'm Stephen Ewashkiw from Adventure Yoga, and this is an at-home yoga workout for everyone. I'm going to call it a Hatha beginner's practice, but really it's a Hatha basics practice. And basics is a great place to work if you already have a yoga practice. It gives you lots of opportunity to get into the pose and really figure out what's going on so that you can grow into more of the pose. And grow into more is our theme for this class. So please unroll your mat and meet me there in a few seconds in a nice comfortable seat. Please come into a comfortable seat on your mat or on a chair and sit up tall. Grow a little bit more into yourself. How will you live? Every moment of one's existence, one is growing into more or retreating into less. This is a quote from Norman Mailer. And today I want us to focus on growing into more, to being more of ourselves in this yoga practice for everyone. Come into child's pose, please. Take your knees wide, place your feet flat, and sit back on your heels. If you know child's pose, you can come into child's pose and be here. If placing the tops of your ankles down like this is painful for you, you can always take a towel and roll it up and place it under your ankles. Or you can simply sit cross-legged and take a moment there. If you're in child's pose, stretch your arms out in front of you and fold forward. Again, just another modification to make this available for everyone. If it's painful for you to close your knee joint this much, you can take another towel or take a towel or a yoga blanket and roll it up and place it between your knees so you sit back on that. That will prevent your butt, most likely, from coming down to your heels, but that's okay. Everybody lift your forehead up a little bit and grow into more. Push your hips back behind you. You can help by pushing down and forward with your hands. And then keep your hips rooting back and lengthen through your spine. It can help to pull back a little with your fingers to find a little more length for your spine. And then bring your forehead back down to the ground. Steady your breath to help settle your mind. Then come up to all fours. Bring your shoulders over your wrists. Bring your knees just a little closer together and have your shins going straight back, parallel to each other. Round your back and look to your belly. For cat pose, pause here, push through your hands, push through your lower legs, and really stretch your spine. And then go in the opposite direction. It's called cow pose. Forward, look up, move your shoulders away from your ears, lift through your tailbone. Cow pose, stretch your belly, and then go back into cat pose. Stretch your spine, and into cow. Inhale, exhale, into cat. Inhale, into cow. Exhale, into cat. One more cow. Inhale, and then come to neutral. Bring your shoulders over your wrists. Work to have the front of your wrists parallel with the top edge of your mat. And come into plank pose. If you know plank pose, you can just come there and wait for us. Otherwise, I'll walk you into it. Stretch your right leg back, tuck your toes, push your toes into the ground, straighten your right leg. Push through your hands, push your right toes down, and then do the same thing with your left leg that you're doing with your right. Stretch it back behind you, tuck your toes, and push your toes into the ground. Bring your shoulders over your wrists and stretch your spine long. If having your knees off the ground is too much for you today, that's fine. Come down to your knees, and eventually you can grow into knees off the ground with practice, with patience. And breathe. Plank pose. And then we're going to move up into Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. So bend your knees, move your hips back and up. Push your hands down and forward. Move your chest back. Bring your ears in line with your upper arms. I like to practice down dog with my knees bent a lot. In the final form of the pose, we do it with legs straight. Choose knees bent or legs straight. If you're very new to your practice, I recommend knees bent. If you've got tight hamstrings, I recommend knees bent. Push your hands down. Lift through your tailbone and stretch out of your shoulders. Grow a little more in your neck as well. You have a choice to draw in and turn in and retreat, or to grow and step out into the world. Yoga is about engagement. It's about learning to step out into the world. Look at your hands, bend your knees, and walk forward. Take as many steps as you need. And then bring your feet about hip distance apart and touch the ground. So bend your knees as much as you need to so that you can touch the ground. And look at your feet. Make your feet parallel to each other. That's going to help you have a nice solid foundation. And then relax your head and shoulders and fold over your legs. If you can practice this forward fold with your legs straight, you have the option to place your hands flat. But don't be in a rush to expand the pose. Knees bent, fingertips on the ground is a really good place to be with Uttanasana, or forward fold. If your hands are flat, come up on your fingertips. Push down through your fingers, everybody. Push down through your feet. Straighten your arms so that your chest lifts some. Half forward fold, or Ardha Uttanasana. And then grow out of the pose. Stretch back through your hips, not to move them back, but to ground them back, and then lengthen through your spine. Grow into more of the half forward fold. And then fold forward. Uttanasana. Let's do that again. Straighten your arms to lift your chest. Keep touching the ground, so if you need to bend your knees, bend your knees. Pull back a little with your fingers so you can grow into your Ardha Uttanasana. Lengthen through your spine. And then fold forward. Uttanasana. Place your hands on your waist and stand up. Stretch your arms down at your sides. Uttanasana. Look forward and breathe. Now, I always like to teach something when I'm teaching class, and today I'm going to teach you about isometric engagement, specifically isometric engagement in your feet. We might come and use it a little bit in our hands. Usually when we talk about muscle engagement, there are two kinds of muscle engagement, flexion and extension. Right? We're used to those. But there's another kind, it's called isometric. And isometric engagement happens, well, it's a little bit different, but in a flexion or extension of the muscle shortens or lengthens. Actually, the end points of the muscle get closer together or further away. In isometric engagement, the end points of the muscle stay where they are, and the fibers of the muscle engage. We're going to play with that. We're going to play with it in your feet. So do this with me. Look at your left foot and actually turn your left foot out to the left. So push down through your left heel, turn your foot out to the left. Cool. Then we're going to try and turn that into an isometric engagement. So push down through your left foot. Just touch your outer left butt so you can feel what happens there. And without moving your foot, do the energy of turning it out to the left. So stick it to your mat. It's like stick it to the man, which is a good thing to do. Stick it to the mat and turn your left foot out. You might feel under your left hand that your butt engages. You'll probably feel your left quads engage a little bit more. and then relax. So you can do this again on the other side. Push down through your right heel, and this time actually turn your right foot out. So that's not an isometric engagement because muscles are shortening. The ends of the muscles are getting closer together to cause that movement, particularly in your glutes. Touch your outer right hip here, like the fleshy part of your butt, not the bony bit, but go back a little to the flesh. And then push down for your right foot. And as if you're going to recreate that turn out, make your foot stick to the mat, you might feel like, oh yeah, my butt's engaging a little. You'll probably really feel your quads engage a little. They're working to hold everything together. And then relax. We're going to use that action, that isometric action of turning your foot out without letting it turn out to help us find more ability to grow in these poses that we're going to play with today. Cool? Cool. Tadasana. Look forward. And just a little bit, push down through your feet and turn them both out. Right foot out to the right, clockwise, left foot out to the left, counterclockwise. This will help make your legs more engaged. Place your hands on your waist, bend your knees a little, and then fold forward. Touch the ground. Bend your knees as much as you need to touch the ground. Slide your hands back beside your feet. Bend your knees as much as you need to so you can keep touching the ground. And then step your right leg straight back. Now I want to have your right leg straight and your left knee over your ankle. So if you're doing it like I'm doing it, we're going to have to adjust it. So when I did this, my left knee is in front of my ankle. So to adjust it, I'm going to just walk my left foot forward until my ankle is under my knee. Find that. Push down through your fingers, push down through your toes, through your whole foot of your left foot, and look forward. Lunge or Banarasana. Now let's play with that isometric action here to really engage our front leg, our left leg. Push down through your left foot, and without moving it, turn it out counterclockwise so that energetically the muscle engages in your left leg, in your left glutes, so you get a little bit stronger there. So you can grow into the pose, lift your chest. Bend your right knee just a little bit, and we're going to step forward. Step your right leg forward. Take as many steps as you need, and go right back with your left leg. Step your left leg back. Same thing, other side. Banarasana, lunge pose. Have your right knee over your ankle. Adjust your right foot if you need to. And then push down through your right foot, and without moving it, isometrically turn it out to the right. So your right leg gets a little more engaged. So your outer hip gets a little more engaged, so you get a little bit stronger. So you can grow. Lift through your chest. Instead of turning into your shell, come out of your shell. Bend your left knee a little, and we're going to step forward. Step your left leg forward, and we're going to keep going. Step your right leg back. So Banarasana again, or the lunge. Stretch your left knee over your ankle. Push down through your feet and bring your hands onto your waist. Lift your torso. If having your knee off the ground makes this too unstable, you can bring your right knee down to the ground. Stretch your arms up overhead. Crescent lunge. A tendency here is for your left knee, to wander in towards the middle of your mat. We want your left knee pointing straight ahead. So to help get that and to help stabilize your left hip, push down through your left foot and isometrically turn it out to the left. And that's going to help your left knee point forward. That's those muscles in your quads engaging. It's the muscles in your outer left hip engaging. Crescent lunge. Stretch up through your arms, lift through your spine, and grow into yourself a little bit more. And then bring your hands down to the ground. If your right knee is on the ground, bring it off the ground. And everybody bend your right knee a little and step it forward. Going to crescent lunge on the other side. Step your left leg straight back. Start in the lunge first and set it up. Right ankle under your right knee. Look forward. Push through your feet. Lift your torso. Bring your hands onto your waist. If you need to bring your left knee down to the ground for stability, do. And stretch your arms up overhead. Crescent lunge. To help make your right leg nice and strong, nice and supportive, push down through your right foot. Without letting it move, turn it out to the right a little bit so that your right knee stretches forward, so your right hip hugs in. Crescent lunge. And breathe. Smile. Bring your hands down to the ground. If your left knee is on the ground, bring it off the ground. Look forward. Bend your left knee just a little and step forward. There are a few lunges in this class, so let's stand up in between the next set. Bend your knees, place your hands on your waist, and stand up. Straighten your legs, stretch your arms at your sides. Tadasana. Cool. Let's go to the next set of lunges. Bring your hands on your waist, bend your knees a little, and fold forward. Touch the ground. Bend your knees as much as you need to so that you can touch the ground. Step your right leg back. This time we're going to change the lunge into a warrior one stance. So walk your left foot over to the middle of your mat, and then step your right foot forward just a little, like about half as low, like a short step forward, let's say that. Little step forward. Then turn your left heel in and down, sorry, your right heel in and down. And my mat has this nice center line on it. Thanks, Lifeform. I love this mat. I don't get paid for that. I just really like this mat. So I've lined up heel to heel using that center line on my mat as a guideline. If you're newer to the pose, or if you think that it might be unstable when you come up, if you find it's unstable, you can just take your feet a little wider apart. Push through your right foot, stretch your left knee forward over your ankle, push through your feet, and lift your torso, bring your hands to your hips. Virabhadrasana 1. Stretch your left knee over your ankle, stretch your arms up. So if it's really unstable here, you can walk your left foot over to the left and widen your stance a little to find a little more balance. But to make everybody's left leg a little more stable, push down through your left foot and isometrically turn your left foot out to the left. That'll get you a little more stretch on your inner left thigh. It'll help you stretch your left knee forward, and it will help stabilize your left hip. And then stretch up long through your spine. And maybe you want to look up and bring your hands together. It's a little flourish. It's like the cherry on top of Warrior One. Bring your hands onto your waist and look forward. And straighten your front leg. Really work to square your hips towards the front of the mat. So pull your right hip forward, pull your left hip back, and then fold at your hips, stretch your chest forward. Come to about halfway or torso parallel to the ground. Push your hands back into your hips so that you can grow a little bit more and stretch long through your spine. To help keep your left hip stable, push down through your left foot and isometrically turn it out. You might start to feel like, oh yeah, that's doing a lot of work. That's pretty cool, Stephen. I know, right? And then from here, if you can touch the ground with your hands, bring your hands down to the ground. That's pretty far away though, so you might be better off holding your right leg and pulling up on your right leg. Choose. Keep your spine long, roughly parallel to the ground, and steady your breath. This is called Parsvottanasana, often called pyramid pose in English. Bend your left knee, lift your right heel, and we're going to change sides. So step your right leg forward, step your left leg back. Walk your right foot to the center of your mat. Just a little bit, step your left foot forward, turn your heel in and down. Line up heel to heel on the center line of your mat, unless you modify it on the first side, and then take your right foot a little bit back over to the right. Bend your right knee over your ankle, push through your feet, lift your torso, stretch your arms up. Virabhadrasana 1, other side. Square your hips a little, pull your left hip forward, pull your right hip back, but don't pull your right knee back, keep your right knee forward, over your right ankle. Push down through your right foot. And do that isometric engagement here. Turn your right foot out clockwise without letting it move, so your right knee stretches forward, so your outer right hip engages. And then lift through the sides of your ribs. Maybe do that little cherry on top, look up, bring your hands together. But that is really a cherry on top. It's unnecessary. You can always keep your arms apart, looking forward. Straighten your right leg and bring your hands onto your waist. Now, because your knee isn't bent, you have a little more ability to square your hips here. So push down through your left foot, pull your left hip forward. Push down with your hands. Move your hips back. They won't move much, but you can tip them back a little. Lift through your sit bone, lift through your tailbone as you start to fold over your right leg. Roll your shoulders back. Push back with your hands to ground your hips back behind you and lengthen through your spine. So you keep growing here. Push down through your right foot and isometrically turn it out to the right. This will help shift your hips to the left a little. It'll help square your hips and stabilize your hips. So you can grow a little bit longer and then choose hands to the ground or hands holding your right leg. Pull up on your right leg if you're holding your right leg. Pull back a little with your fingers if you're touching the ground. And grow into more. Parsvottanasana. Steady your breath and breathe. Bend your right knee, lift your left heel, and step it forward. Separate your feet a little bit, make your feet parallel to each other. Bend your knees a little, place your hands on your waist, and stand up. Stretch your arms down at your sides. Tadasana. Place your hands on your waist, bend your knees a little, and fold forward, and touch the ground. Now we've been doing right leg back first a lot. I'm going to do left leg back first this time. Partly it's so that if you're looking at the screen, you can see what's happening on the first side. Step your left leg back. Step it straight back. Back to lunge, Bhamarasana. Push down through your right foot. Turn your left heel in and bring it down to the ground. Rather than your toes pointing forward this time, work to have your left foot parallel to the short edge of your mat, or pointing straight out to the side. Walk your right foot over to the middle of your mat. So lined up with the right heel, so it would cut through the middle of the left foot. If you know Warrior Two, you can come up to Warrior Two now. Stretch your right knee forward over your ankle if you're waiting for a little more instruction. Push down through your feet, push down through your fingers, and get a little spring back. So push down, lift your chest up. Stretch your arms out to your sides. Work to have your wrists about as high as your shoulders, and then look out over your right fingertips. Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2. Now, we talked about the tendency of the knee to turn in a little bit. That happens a lot in Warrior 2. Your right knee will come in over to the left. So to help counter that and to just get your right leg stronger and more stable, push down through your right foot. And yeah, not surprisingly, turn it isometrically out to the right so your inner thigh stretches forward, so your right knee stretches forward, so your outer right butt cheek hugs in. Then lift up through your spine and grow into more Warrior 2. And smile. Straighten your right leg. Push through your right foot to straighten your right leg. Turn your palms out to the side. Reach forward and do a side bend for Trikonasana, triangle. If you touch the ground comfortably in Trikonasana, you can go there. Otherwise, hold the outside of your right leg. This is what I usually do for triangle, and I've been practicing yoga for like 12 years. Pull up on your right leg. Turn your chest up towards the ceiling. Push down through your right foot. Isometrically turn it out to the right so your right knee points forward. Push down through your left foot. Isometrically turn it out to the left so your left hip opens a little. And then grow. Lengthen through your spine. Even think about doing a little bit of an upper back bend here. Take your head back a little and look up. Triangle pose, Trikonasana. Steady your breath. Taking the work like this, nice and carefully, nice and steadily. It's a great opportunity to see where you can grow. Bend your right knee a little. Look down at your right foot, bring your left hand down, lift your left heel, and bring your right hand down. Banarasana. Walk your right foot over a little to the right and look forward. Bend your left knee a little and step your left leg forward, step your right leg back. Same two poses on the other side. So walk your left foot over to the middle of your mat, turn your right heel in and down across the midline of your mat. Have your right foot parallel to the back of your mat, bend your left knee over your ankle. You can come right into warrior two if you know the pose. Push through your feet, lift your torso, stretch your arms out to the side, and stretch your left knee forward. There's an old yoga saying, your body will take the path of least resistance. That's why having a yoga instructor is quite useful, because we're here to remind you to keep working when your body's like, oh, I don't want to. And that's what happens with your left leg here. Your left knee starts to turn into the right because it takes less effort. And so I'm here to remind you to push down through your left foot and isometrically turn it out to the left so that your inner left thigh has to work more, so that your left quads have to work more, so your outer left hip has to work more to hold it together, so that you can, instead of drawing in and collapsing, so that you can grow, so that you can live more. Stretch up through your spine. Warrior two. Push through your left foot and straighten your left leg. Pull up on your left knee to help straighten it. Turn your palms out to the side, and when you're ready, Trikonasana, or with me, shift forward a little and side bend to the left. Stretch your right arm up. Again, same instruction on this side. If you're used to touching the ground and you're comfortable touching the ground, be my guest. Or hold your left leg like I'm doing. Grab the outside of your calf muscle, pull up on your left leg so that you can twist your torso up towards the ceiling. Stretch your right arm over your left shoulder, so straight up and down. Push down through your left foot, isometrically turn it out to the left, push down through your right foot, it's a smaller engagement, but isometrically turn it out to the right so your right hip, right rib cage turn up a little bit, and then live more. Stretch through your spine. Do a little back bend and look up. Trikonasana, triangle. Bend your left knee a little. Look down at the ground. Bring your right hand down, bring your right heel up. Walk your left foot over a little. This time step it back to plank pose. Did this a long time ago, it feels like. Bring your shoulders over your wrists, push down through your toes, and then stretch through your spine. You can keep your knees off the ground, or to modify, no problem, bring your knees down to the ground. That makes it much more accessible. In fact, I'm going to bring my knees to the ground, so I'm doing that with those of you who are here. The tendency with knees down is to stick your butt up. Instead, tuck your butt in a little, even shift your hips forward a little more, working for a straight line from the back of your knees to the back of your head, rather than a little bump at your butt, a nice long straight pose down to your knees. And if you're in plank pose, it's the same thing, but obviously the knee joint is open. Not here. It's not even a sagging hips. It's straight, not parallel to the ground, but straight. I know it's a pretty long plank pose, right? Cool, well, let's do the next thing. Bend your elbows a little. Point your elbows back behind you. Tone your belly, push through your hands and bend your elbows a little more. Pause here. Breathe into your upper back and bend your elbows. Go as low as you can without collapsing to the ground. If you have Chaturanga Dandasana as part of your practice, go there. But no, we are holding it for just a moment and then come all the way down. Place your feet flat, so untuck your toes, look forward, behind your back, interlace your fingers, roll your upper arms out and squeeze your shoulder blades together, lift your hands and lift your chest. Grow a little bit longer in your spine to help. Push your butt down, push your feet down and lift your chest up. And then come down. Place your hands beside your chest. Place them flat on the ground. Another back bend. Push down with your hands a little. Pull back with your hands a little. And move your shoulders up and back. Stretch your elbows back a little. That'll help you lift your chest a little. We're just going to lift a little. Bring your hands off the ground. So just float them up off the ground. Push down through your lower feet. Through your lower feet, your feet. Push down through your hips. Lift your chest up. I call this one flying cobra because it's a bit like cobra, but it's almost like we're flying because we got our hands off the ground. So to turn it into cobra, touch your hands down to the ground, pull back a little, push down a little, lift your chest even more. Bhujangasana, or cobra pose. Spread all of your toes, push them down, and child's pose. Lift your hips, push your hips back, and if you used a blanket under your ankles or between your knees before, you can grab that now. Rest your forehead on the ground, stretch your arms forward, and just take a few breaths here. And then come up to all fours, also called Barmanasana. Bring your knees a little bit closer together so they're hip distance. Make your shins parallel to each other. Bring your shoulders over your wrists. All fours. And then back into downward facing dog. Tuck your toes under. Lift your knees. Lift your hips up. Move your chest back. Downward facing dog. Keep your knees bent or straighten your legs. Grow through your spine. Move your shoulders away from your ears. Stretch long through your neck. Have your ears between your arms, but move your chest back a little. Lift your hips up a little. Lengthen through your spine. And then look between your hands. Bend your knees, everyone, and start to walk forward. Keep going. So once you get to the top of your mat or to your hands, walk your hands back, bend your knees, and bring your butt down to the ground. Sounds pretty good, right? Stretch your legs out in front of you. Dandasana, place your hands on the ground beside you, beside your hips. Sit up tall. If you can place your hands flat here, do. But if you can't, that's okay. You can do fists, and that will help make your arms a little bit longer. If that's not long enough, you can always grab books and place your hands on books or yoga blocks. They work too. Sit up tall. Dandasana is staff pose. Stretch out through your legs, so grow through the length of your legs. Stretch up through your spine. Push down just a little with your hands to help. Grow through your spine. Grow into more. Instead of retreating. Grow into your existence. Bend your knees. Slide your heels back. Take your hands and hold the backs of your legs. Hold your hamstrings. Lean back just a little more. Bring your legs together. Lift your heels off the ground. So this is stage one of Navasana, or boat pose. You can stay here. It's a great place to be. Or stretch your arms out to your sides. Stretch forward. You can stay here, stage two. Or straighten your legs. They're all variations of Navasana or boat pose. Breathe. Hold your breath. And then work to expand your spine. So lift your chest. Lengthen through your spine. Push your feet down to engage your legs a little more without moving your feet. Turn them out so your inner thighs hugging, so your outer hips hugging. So even here you can do that isometric action. And then if your legs are straight, bend your knees. Everybody bring your feet to the ground. Swing your legs around to one side and sit on your heels. Sit up, Vajrasana, or thunderbolt pose. If in child's pose you are placing a blanket under your ankles, you probably want to do that here as well. And if in child's pose you're placing the blanket between your knees, or right here, you probably want to do that here as well. Sit up tall. All you have to do here is grow into more possibility. Place your hands on the ground, sort of halfway between your hips and your knees, beside your legs. Push down through your toes, lean back a little, and lift your knees up. Doesn't have to be very far, just lift your knees up. Then bring your knees down. Lean forward, lift your butt up, push your hands down, lean forward even more, and bring your feet off the ground. Again, it doesn't have to be much, just get them to float as best as you can, and then bring them down, sit on your heels again. We're going to work to bring those two pieces of a pose called Lolasana together. Ready? Or do you want to do that again? Okay, let's do that again. Lean back a little, push through your feet, push your hands down and forward, just pick your knees up. It's a good stretch for the front of your ankles, right? Oh my gosh. And then bring your knees down. Lean forward, lift your butt up, lean forward even more, push your hands down and back, bring your feet off the ground, squeeze them in, and then bring your feet down, hips down. Cool. When you're doing that, and this is a hard thing to instruct while we're doing the next thing, so I'm going to give it to you now. Push down through your hands, and without moving them, turn them out. Yeah, so we can do the isometric engagement in our hands as well. And while you're doing this, with your feet, do the isometric engagement. Keep your big toes touching, but work like you're turning your feet out. What does that feel like? It feels like this. Push down through your hands, without moving them, turn them out. So if you are looking at the screen, my elbows turn forward. Yours will probably do that too, the inside of your elbows. Push down through your feet, turn them out, and lift your knees up. Bring them down. Push down with your hands, turn them out, push down through your feet, lift your knees up. Then lean forward and lift your butt up. Lean forward even more, push your hands down and back, maybe bring your feet off the ground. Oh my gosh, now we're flying. Bring your feet down, bring your butt down, knees down. That's what it's called. Butt down, knees down, and sit up. That's called Lolasana, or earring pose, or more specifically, dangling earring pose, because eventually we get to swing back and forth with it. But it's just a thing to work on to help us grow and to see if we're capable of more today than we were yesterday. So come back to it again, but not now. For now, come into plank pose. And then downward facing dog. Bend your knees, lift your hips up and back. Look at your hands and come up onto your fingertips. Well, whenever we've come into a lunge, we started at the top of our mat. This time we're starting at the back. Step your left foot forward. And if it gets stuck part way, no problem. You can always bring your right knee down and then walk your left foot forward. Walk your left foot forward till your ankle is under your knee. And then everybody bring your right knee down. Walk your left foot over to the right. And then pick your left toes up off the ground and slide your left heel back. So bend your left knee. Now this is fun. You gotta lift your left heel up, pick your foot up, point your toes, point your whole foot, and get the top of your foot, top of your shin on the ground. If you know pigeon prep, come into pigeon prep. Walk your right knee back, walk your hips straight back, and then walk your arms forward. You can come down onto your forearms, or bring your forehead to the ground, or stretch your arms straight out in front of you. Choose. This is called pigeon prep, or Ekapada Rajakapotasana, to give it its fancy name. I want to just talk to you a little bit about what you're doing here. Have your knee a little bit wider than your hip, and have your shin at a nice 45-degree angle, top of your left foot on the ground. Walk your right knee back even a little bit more now that you've been getting set up. Get your hips nice and low to the ground, but work to keep them balanced. So the tendency might be to drop onto your left butt here, because remember, your body will take the path of least resistance. So here, instead, work to be a little centered with your hips, or completely centered. To help with that, push down through your left foot and isometrically turn it out to the left. That's going to help stabilize your left hip and make it stronger, make your left glutes stronger so that you can hold yourself up. I don't mean upright, but up in your hips. So you can, if you haven't folded forward, fold forward. Go to the place that's appropriate. I often like to make a little hand pillow and rest my forehead on that. Another isometric action that we can do is a subtle action of drawing your knees in towards each other. It's just going to tighten things up a little and stabilize so that you can grow the possibilities of pigeon. Breathe in the pose for a couple of breaths. Experience it. And then walk your hands in, place your hands on your mat. If you place your right foot flat, tuck your toes. We're going to push it up and back into down dog. So do your best. Push through your hands. Push down with your left foot and your right foot. Lift your right knee. Lift your left knee. Step your left foot back. Down dog. And stretch it out. Find some balance here. And then come up onto your fingertips. And we're going to step into the lunge on the second side. So get ready. Step your right foot forward. If it gets stuck, you can always bring your left knee down and then walk your right foot forward until your ankle is under your knee. And then everybody bring your left knee down to the ground. Walk your right foot over to the left. Pick your right toes up off the ground. Slide your right heel back until your toes come to the ground, and then push down for your hands. Pick your hips up a little. Pick your right foot up, point your toes, and get it down to the ground. So that's a pretty quick action of sound effects up. And then bring your right knee down to the ground. You can get your right hand out of the way if it's in the way. Straighten your left ankle, but on a nice angle. Walk your left knee back. Pigeon. Don't collapse down to your right hip. Instead, work to keep your hips balanced and off the ground an equal distance. And here you can start to fold forward. Come down to your forearms. Maybe bring your forehead to the ground or make a little hand pillow and bring your forehead to that. Or even grow into a little more and stretch your arms out in front of you. I'm going to stay a little upright so that I can talk to you about the pose though. So you find your setup. Walk your left knee back a little bit more. Not so much that you drop down to your right hip though. I want you to engage your right leg isometrically. So push down through your right foot and imagine you're turning it down into your mat. So that's clockwise turn. So that your right knee lifts a little bit. So that your outer right hip turns in and lifts up a little bit. So you get stronger in your right hip. It's to build strength so that you can hold yourself up. So that you can grow into yourself more. So that you can live. How will you live? That's our great question today. How will you live? And I want you to live more fully. Pigeon proud. Enjoy this for a couple of breaths. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders or hands flat on your mat. Tuck your left toes under if your foot is flat. We're going back into downward facing dog again. So push through your hands, push through your left toes, lift your left knee, push through your hands, lift your hips and your right knee, step your right leg back and stretch it out, down dog. We're near the end of class now, so you might be able to do down dog with your legs straight if you've been doing it with legs bent, but also you might really just be enjoying knees bent. I like knees bent a lot in my down dog. Bring your knees down to the ground. and sit up. Bring your hips over to one side and stretch your legs out in front of you. You're going to turn to face the camera here. Stretch your left leg out to the side, bend your right leg, and bring the sole of your foot to the inside of your left leg. Setting up for Janu Shirshasana, for those of you that know it. You can set up for it, but don't fold forward yet. Everybody touch the ground outside your left leg. This is a little bit like an isometric action. Pull back with your fingers and notice how things engage. Then turn your upper body and face your left leg. That's not isometric. That's some flexion of muscles there. It's different. It's concentric, not isometric. Don't worry, I don't want to get too nerdy. We're just going to get into the forward fold here. Stretch your arms up overhead. Move your chest forward and start to flex at your left hip. If you can keep your left leg straight and hold your left leg, do. If you're used to Janu Shirshasana, you may come into your Janu Shirshasana now. If you can't hold your left foot and keep your left leg straight, just like I asked a lot of us to do in triangle, just hold your leg. Or like we did in pyramid pose, pull your leg. Keep your left leg straight, pull your chest forward and over your left leg. Move the left side of your ribs to the left. Move the right side of your ribs down towards your left leg. And then stretch longer through your spine. Pull on your leg, stretch your spine. Stretch your left leg here. Janu Shirshasana. Lift your head and chest. Sit up and change sides. Open your right leg out to the right. Take your left leg, bend your knee. Bring the sole of your left foot inside your right leg. And then shift your hips a little, pull your right hip back, turn and face your right leg, touch outside your right leg, so hands on either side. Push down a little to help you turn your chest to face your right leg. Stretch your arms up overhead, and if you're used to Janu Shirshasana, come into your Janu Shirshasana now. Everyone else, move your chest forward with me. Reach for your right foot, and if you can keep your right leg straight and hold your foot, do. If you can't, hold your right leg where you can keep it straight. Pull on your leg, stretch your breastbone forward, grow a little longer in your chest, and then round your back and fold over your right leg. Janu Shirshasana. Keep your right leg straight. Stretch it back through your right hip. Stretch your chest towards your right foot. I want you to feel this in your right leg, not just in your back. To help you feel it in your right leg more, grow into more. Lengthen your spine like you're trying to bring your breastbone onto your ankle. Probably won't happen. Don't worry. It's like you're doing that, not actually doing that. Pull on your leg, lift your head and chest, and sit up. Stretch your legs out in front of you. Bend your right knee. Bring your foot to the ground inside your left leg and then cross it over your left leg. So use your hands, pick your right leg up, place your right foot outside your left leg. Take your right hand back behind you. Take your left hand, grab your right knee and draw it in towards your chest and sit up. Grow. And then twist to the right. Turn your right shoulder back. You can stay here holding your right knee, or take your left arm on top of your right leg and hook your left arm onto your right leg, and then you get a little more push to twist. But it doesn't have to be the most intense twist you've ever done. Instead, lengthen through your spine. Move your shoulders back and get the opening that way. Ardha Matsyendrasana. So it's half of a pose called half Lord of the Fishes pose, or Ardha Matsyendrasana. Ardha means half. Come back to center. Touch the ground behind you, lean back, and then lift your right leg, stretch it out. So we can use our hands or we can just use our muscles. So let's go to the other side without picking our left leg up, if possible. I mean, with your hands. Pick your left leg up. It's not possible otherwise. Bend your left knee, pick your foot up. Just don't use your hands unless you have to. Step your left leg over your right leg. Man, I'm making this way more complicated than it needs to be. Wiggle your hips back a little bit. Take your left arm back behind you. Touch the ground with your left fingertips. Then take your right hand. Hold your left knee. Bring your left knee towards your chest and use that to get a little resistance and twist open. Roll your left shoulder back. Roll your right shoulder back. Again, you can stay here or take your right arm and hook it onto your left leg. And then you can deepen the twist a little bit more using the resistance of right arm pushing on the left leg. But don't crank it. Lift up through your spine. Make it a more gentle twist. Move your shoulders back and breathe. This is a more accessible version of Ardha Matsyendrasana. The difference is your right leg that's straight out in front of you here, it's bent and folded underneath you in Ardha Matsyendrasana. I like this version, especially when I'm teaching all levels, because it's more accessible. The twist is what's really important. Come back to center. Lean back, uncross your left leg, and lie down on your back. Just a couple more poses. Move your hips forward and lie down. Bend your knees, place your feet on the ground. Stretch your arms at your sides towards your feet, not out to your sides. Walk your feet in enough that you can just touch your heels a little with your fingertips. And then I know that it's hard to see your feet, but make them straight or parallel to each other. Bend your elbows, point your fingers up to the ceiling, push your shoulders down. Bring your lower back to the ground, so tuck your butt underneath you a little bit. Push your feet down and lift your hips up. Underneath your lower back, take your hands and interlace your hands, hold your hands. Bring your hands to the ground if it's available. And then lean to your left, tuck your right arm underneath you. Lean onto your right arm, tuck your left arm underneath you. Squeeze your shoulder blades towards each other. It's been a while since I've said to isometrically engage your feet, but I want you to do that here. Push down through your feet, isometrically engage them so that your inner thighs engage, so that your quads engage, and so that your outer hips engage. It's not to turn your knees out, it's just to strengthen the support network for your hips and your knees. Then lift your hips higher. This is called bridge pose or Setubandha Sarvangasana. Push your shoulders down, push your wrists down, push your feet down, and isometrically turn your feet out. And breathe. Release your hands and lower your hips down to the ground. Keep your knees bent. Bend your elbows and bring your palms up towards the ceiling, elbows out to your sides. Call that cactus pose. Walk your feet as wide as your mat and walk them a little bit further away from your hips, so a little bit more towards the top of your mat. But feet flat, knees bent. Knees as wide as your ankles. Look to the left and roll your knees over to the right. Windshield wiper pose or lightning bolt pose. Keep your knees over to the right. If you want to take this a little bit deeper, you can take your right foot, bring it up and place it on your left knee. That's a lot for a lot of people though, so you don't have to do that at all. I usually don't do that variation. I'm just modeling it so you can see it. Now I'm not. And then come back up to center. Look to the right and roll your knees over to the left. Again, you get that same option here if you wanted to take your left foot and place it on your right knee. Push down through your shoulders, bring your knees back up to center. 2 more poses. Stretch your legs out. First one's stretch. Stretch your arms up overhead. Point your toes. Stretch through your fingers. Stretch through your toes. Stretch your whole body. And the second pose is Shavasana, the final pose. Bring your arms down to your sides. Tuck your shoulders underneath you. Turn your palms up. Separate your feet so they're about as wide as your mat. And rest. Close your eyes. How will you live? Yoga reminds us that life is a duality. It's not all of one thing. So life isn't only expansion or growing into more. Life is sometimes going inside, retracting, reflecting. Use this time for reflection. We will stay here for about 1 more minute. If you would like a longer Shavasana, simply hit pause and take as long a Shavasana as your day allows. Begin to deepen your breath. Pull your breath through your body. Stretch through your ankles, stretch through your fingers, even curl your fingers in and stretch them out. Flex and extend your ankles. Start to move, stretch through your shoulders, maybe do a little side bend. If you want to go back to that really long stretch, you can stretch your arms overhead. Like a nice good morning stretch. And then when you're ready, bend your knees and turn onto your side. Use your arms, push yourself up, and come to a seated position, facing forward. Bring your hands together in front of your heart in the prayer position, Anjali Mudra. Thanks so much for practicing today. How will you live? My hope is that you will live like this practice, growing into more, expanding into who you are and who you will become. I'm excited for the adventures that you will have. I'm excited for all of us to step into who we are. That's what our practice is there to help us find and do. That's yoga. Thanks for practicing. Namaste. Thanks, Omies. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, please just click on my picture over there to subscribe. Click on the little bell button. You'll get notifications whenever I post a new class. And if you are looking for another class to do in the future, there's a class of mine I recommend. Just click on it, add it to your watch later list. Done. Ready for you next time. Have a great day. See you soon.